Hi everyone, and welcome back to Fox Hill Junction at the Class 47 Peter YouTube channel. And today's video is going to be part 2 of adding and improving scenery on the layout. And so this video shall pick up where we left off from in part 1. So in part 1, we last did that area there, where the hills with the narrow gauge railway runs on top of, with the main line running below it. So to kick off this part, we are going to be doing the field, which is going to be completely redone. The walls are going to be coming out and they're going to be replaced, but not in this video, because I'm going to save that for a separate future video. The windmill will stay in there. All those bushes and the trees will be coming out, and the animals will come out as well, because what I have in mind for this area now is something very different. And my plan is that this is going to be a straw field with some bales in there. I got inspiration for this whilst on my way back from Hobby Rail. Actually, we passed a field with some bales in it, and that gave me the idea to do this. So the field has now been stripped down from the walls, the trees and the bushes and the animals, so this area is now looking rather bare at the moment, except for the windmill there in the middle, which will stay as it is. Now this area is now all going to be repainted. Now because it's a straw field, I'm going to be painting it a cream colour, a colour similar to the straw, because then that way in certain areas you could have the cream paint showing through, because the last thing I want is to show any signs of any of this area here, such as all this green scatter about, showing through the straw, which won't look as nice then. So if I paint it all cream and then obviously put the hay on afterwards, I think it will look much better. Okay, so the paint has now been applied. It is mostly dry in most areas. In other areas it's not quite dry, so I'll have to let it dry fully before I can do anything on it. In other areas you can see it's soaked in, but that's not to worry, because I have since remembered that I have put scatter over painted areas before, such as an area like this, when it is eventually covered over with static grass, and the paint never shows through, so hopefully it shouldn't happen with here. But it doesn't matter, because I'm not going to go ahead and put the straw down on the field yet, because I'm going to concentrate on this area all along here. Now the effect I'm after for this area, running along the top of where the hayfield is going to be, or straw field rather, I don't just want to put one colour of static grass down, because the effect I'm after is I want to add multiple colours of static grass along there. I've taken inspiration from hills, fields and such that have multiple different colours of static grass, so that's the effect that I want to achieve. Now I went back to Hobby Rail and I bought several items. On here you see most of the items I bought. There's one other item that I bought which you won't see in this video because it's not going to be featured until a separate video. But first of all, the first colour I'm going to use is Gauge Master FS623 Light Green, which is the 7mm static grass, which I am going to use along this part just here. And I am hoping to use it in another area, not necessarily on that area specifically, but a different area. Now for the glue I'm going to be using, usually I use PVA, which works very well for static grass, but while I was in the shop I found this stuff, which is static tack made by Woodland Scenics. And I've never heard of this stuff before, I didn't even know it had ever been produced, but it is made for static grass. So I bought some of this to try it out, and I shall be using this. So this area is now finished. And I must say I'm really rather happy with how this area has come out. It's the exact fit that I wanted to have. And what I've used is, well, first of all I've used the Woodland Scenics Static Grass Light Green for this area just here, and for that little bit over there. I've also used the 7mm medium green static grass as well for that area just there. And then for the middle I've just used the, it's just basically the Knock Summer Green static grass flock, and that looks really nice now and really colourful as well. You also notice that the field has been painted green. Yeah, I decided to paint over the cream colour because I just wasn't really all that happy with it. I decided it wasn't as good enough as it could have been, and so I just painted it over. And to be fair, in my experience with applying static grass over on paint, the paint never shows through the static grass anyway, so I thought, you know, I might as well have it painted green anyway, because it won't show through. Okay, so whilst I'm looking on the field, which I have bought some more straw for to finish it off, and a few areas on that need to be touched up as well, I've decided I'm going to move on to working on this area here, which is just by the narrow gauge line on the depot. So these walls are going to be ripped out and they're going to be replaced with some better walls, though the walls will be replaced in a separate video that I have planned. And all around this area it's going to be static grass, which I think that will make this area look a bit better. So the walls have all been ripped out, and that was the first montage you've seen in this video. So those walls have been thrown away and they'll be replaced later. I have painted over a few patches where some of the scenery got peeled away when I peeled the walls off, but that's no need to worry because static grass is going over it anyway, so that's no biggie. I've also removed these narrow gauge locomotives from off this line up here because obviously I don't want to get any static grass on them. Those two locomotives in the shed are fine where they are, so I've just got to let that little bit of paint dry in the places where I've done some patching up work, and then I can add on the static grass. So the static grass has now been laid down on that area, and that looks much better than it did before. So that's another area that I have now redone and satisfied with. If you're wondering what static grass I've used, I have used Woodland Scenic 7mm medium green, which I think looks very nice in that area. Obviously that little area there is not quite finished yet because it needs to have some fencing along the end there. I'm thinking of getting some of that line side fencing from Scale Model Scenery to have going all the way along there and then down along there, which would look very nice, I think. And so I'm well happy with that. And also that little area up the corner there has also had some static grass put on. For that corner I have used the Woodland Scenics light green 7mm, that is, which does look really nice there. And that area before didn't have any scenery there at all, it was just green paint, so that's now been much improved. Okay, so the field is now done in terms of laying on the Woodland Scenics 2mm static grass straw. I had to buy another bag of the stuff to finish this area off, and it's now finished. So all that's left to do really is to add straw bales, stroke hay bales, and add some walls around the outside, which that's going to be done in a future video. But yeah, I'm well happy with this. Something else I've also done as well is I have used the 12mm Woodland Scenics straw for around the windmill. Now the reason I've done that is because, well, for the whole field, you know, using the 12mm straw and then adding hay bales on the field, it's not going to look right. But what I have done is I have added some of it around the sides of the windmill, as you can see, and that's a very good effect to have. And the reason I've done that is because I wanted to have the effect so that the combine harvester ploughing the field, or whatever machinery that they'd use to plough the field, wouldn't be able to get to the areas where the windmill is around the outsides, or that areas that they've just missed and haven't bothered doing. Because I've gone down my local park, and whenever the grass has been mowed, there are patches of the grass that haven't been cut. So that's the idea, where I wanted to replicate this effect somewhere on the layout, and that's what I've done. And that really does set that off very, very well. Okay, so my attention is now going to turn to this area here, alongside the narrow gauge railway. I've already painted this bit, ready to add the static grass. Now, one thing I'm trying to do on the layout is I want to add in a few areas dead patches of lawn in a few areas, and in a few areas on the layout, not everywhere, but in some areas on the layout. And I wanted to add some on this particular bit on the layout as well. So what I've done here is I did some research on the internet, and what I've done is, in order to try and get the effects I want, I have hand painted on some areas using Humbrol Mascol, areas that I don't want to be covered with static grass, and I'm hoping that that will peel off and I'll be able to add on the dead spots exactly how I want them to look. Okay, so that static grass has gone on very nicely. If you're wondering what static grass I've used the 4mm Woodland Scenics dark green static grass, which I bought from Hobby Rail, which I did do a shop tour video of. If you've not seen that video yet, go and watch it. I did actually buy a few items from there on the day, and this was one of them. And that does look really nice along that area now. So what I've got to do now is to peel off that humble mascot and then add on the dead patches. So this area is now complete, with the exception of the wall that will be added on at a later date. And so I'm actually really pleased how this has come out, considering it's the first time I've tried to create dead spots in a lawn. And it's actually come out really well. The humble mascot peeled off quite nicely. And what I did was, this was all done by hand, the dead spots was, because if I had used the static grass applicator under there, it wouldn't have worked. I wouldn't have had the effect as good as this. What I've also done is I've added I've sprinkled a slight amount over there as well, just to add that bit of variety. It's things like this that, you know, add all the more detail and realism. And I shall be doing that in a few other areas on the layout as well. Another area that's been done, which this area had to be done off camera because I couldn't film it because of the area where I'm standing in. I wouldn't have had a good shot doing it. But this area has been done now. And so that little bit there has been covered using the Woodland Scenics 12mm straw, and the rest of it has been covered using the Pico scorched grass. Now the idea for this area is that I wanted to create a large area that had an area where the grass has been scorched, where there'd been a line-side fire, basically. My inspiration for this was the Fairborn Miniature Railway. When I went there last year, where the tunnel is, which if any of you've seen the video I have on my channel, you will probably have seen that in the background, in the one shot where there's the tunnel, there is a large area in the background where the grass has been scorched, like there's been a line-side fire. And so that is what I wanted to create here. I wanted to recreate that in my own form, if you get what I mean. So that little bit there hasn't been scorched. That's left it would have been looked, basically. And then this whole area here has been covered using that scorched grass. And you see, it's something like this on the layout that adds extra interest and more variety. Because it's nice to have an area, I think, looking like this. Having an area that's been caught by a line-side fire. Because like I said, it adds extra interest and variety. And I'm well happy with this effect. Exactly how I wanted it to look. And so I'm over the moon with that. Another two areas that have been done off camera are these areas here, as you can see. Before there wasn't really much, there was some scenery there but not a lot, and so I thought it's time for a little bit of a change over for this area. Let's get some static grass on, and so that's what I've done. So on that side you have the light green static grass, as you can see. Then on this area you have the dark green, which again adds variety, because, you know, if all areas have the same colour static grass then it doesn't look right. By doing this it adds more colour, having two different ones, but also, like I say, more interest and variety. And so this area is now being improved. And again, the effect by that homemade static grass applicator is excellent. So again, I'm really pleased with this area. I'm really pleased with all the areas actually that have been done, but you get what I mean. Really happy with how that's turned out, and again, that's exactly how I wanted it to look. Okie doke. So next up, I'm going to focus on these two areas just here. As you can see, I've masked up the crash berries at the back and the bit of track here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use two different colours of static grass. The one side is going to be the dark green and the other side is going to be light green, to add some variety in these areas. I'm also going to do some dead grass effects as well, but instead of humble masking up a few areas, I'm going to just lightly sprinkle some bits on in areas, which will look quite nice. Okay viewers, so these two areas are now done. As you can see, I have added some slight dead areas of static grass. What I've done is I've very lightly sprinkled it on, as you can see, which does give a very, very good effect. That bit over there's had a little bit more sprinkled on. There is also some in this area as well where the light grass is, which you can just about see. So again, it adds to the detail and the realism as well. It's not something I'm going to do in all areas, it's just a couple, just to add that bit of variety. And once again, very, very happy with the results of this. Okay, so that brings us on to the end of this video. So both parts are now done. The scenery has now been finished. Well, the static grass side of it has. Up next it's going to be walls, fencing and other bits of detail, which is going to be coming in a separate future video. And also the pig pen over there is also going to get redone, again in a separate video at some point in the future. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave you with a running session as a bonus. So thanks for watching this video, I hope you've enjoyed it and I'll see you again soon. Take care and bye for now.